Orthographic, exercise 1. We had the same exercise and the same component when we started with isometric. Now let's see how we would work back from an isometric view into the 3 orthographic views. So what we do here is we want to look at 3 sides, so the principal view, the right view, and the top view, and we want to draw exactly what we see if we had to look at this component from the right, from the principal view, or from the top. So you can start anywhere. Again, you can start either from the top, the right, or the principal view, but let's start from the principal view. The first thing we do in the same way that we did with isometric is we determine how big these blocks need to be. So if we, for example, had this length as 6, and this as 4, and the height as 4, we can say when we are drawing these blocks that our length here has to be 6, our height here is 4, our width here is 4. And when we are drawing these blocks, we want to make sure that they are in line with each other. So the top view is exactly in line like that, the right view in line like this, and even the top view and the right view line up through this 45-degree line. So if we take from this line up to 45 degrees and down, we line up to the right view, and in the same way we will do that with the opposite side. We also recommend that you have about 40 millimeters between these views, and that's very helpful later when we have dimensions that we need to add in between. Okay, so let's start. Let's start with the principal view because we can see the most information from this view. Now, if we're looking in this direction, we want to determine which faces will we see. And we'll see this face, this face, this face, and this face. When we're looking at the right, those are the faces that we are going to see, and those faces you can see are also perpendicular to the direction where we are looking. Okay, remember when we are drawing solid lines on an orthographic that these solid lines indicate a change in depth. So we can already see that there's a change in depth over here. And if we're looking from the right, the line that I see here and here and here will line up exactly with that line because all of them are on the same plane. So if I'm looking from the side here, I'll just see one solid line like that. So let's say that that line is about 1/3 into the height of the block, which means it's approximately 1/3 here. And I just have that solid line running all the way across. And that solid line indicates that line as well as these 3 lines that lie on that line if I'm looking from the right. Now the second thing is I see there's a change in depth over here. The bottom surface is also divided into 3 parts. So if I divide this into 3 parts, I can make these lines here, which indicates now that I have a change in depth in that direction and in this direction as well as there. So I'm including all of these that I see. Remember when I'm making these lines that both of these lie on the same plane if I'm looking from the right. So that's the one part. The top part I have this angle and it's starting at halfway through the height, so approximately here, and 1/3 maybe through the top, so approximately there. And I can just draw the angle like that. The circle I remember is slightly offset, so it's not in the center of the middle of the block, but it's slightly offset, so I can start again by making my center line. And here again I can give myself a little square to just help myself to draw this circle. So I can make a little square to indicate the size of the circle. Again, looking at the distance, how far it is away from every angle. And then if you make squares like this, you can even add in extra lines like this. And so remember, the radius points that we're putting in, they help us to then connect the dots and draw our circle. And then we'll have the center line. If there's a short one in the middle, we can have a long one going out from the short. And there we go. That's the one orthographic view, the principal view. So the final one that we have, if we erase all the construction lines, all the drawing lines, that is what we end up with. Okay, so from here we want to move on to the right view and the top view. So you can go in either direction, it doesn't matter. If we go over to the right, everything that we see from the right, in line with the right, will translate over. So we can translate these points over, just to give us an indication of where they'll be, the center line as well. And so when we start looking at what would this block look like if we look at it from the right, we see that we see this face, and we'll see this diagonal face. Now if we look at a diagonal face from just the side, it will look like just a clear piece. And this piece, obviously we're hitting this piece perpendicular, so we just see this bottom shape. Now this bottom shape is connected to these lines in front, right? So that's why we have these lines running across. These lines in front, we connect to them, and that's the line that runs in that direction. So up to halfway through the block, and then it slightly lifts up to where this diagonal will start. So halfway through, lifting up to where this diagonal part starts, and then we run this line straight to the other side. Okay, so that's this shape complete. We have that shape already. The next shape that we need is just this block. So from this point, it runs straight up to the top. So from this point, it runs straight up to the top. If I'm looking at a diagonal from the side, I see just a square block. So my final block here on the right would look like this. Now what am I missing? Remember when we were doing orthographic views, we want to do the center lines on all the views. So if I have my center line here, in line with that, I'll also draw the axial center line in to indicate that there's a circle running through that component. There's a tutorial on line alphabet, and you will get all the information you need about these center lines in that tutorial. Now we go to the top view. Now the top view, in the same way as with the right view, there are specific features that will replicate on the top. So let's again take the center line as well. There are these steps that we have here at the bottom, this angle, and we also have some information from the right. So from the right, what we have, this line going up and that line going across, which means that there can be potentially a feature over there. So looking at the top, we will see this shape, we will see this diagonal shape, which will just look like a square, and we'll see this strange shape that we see over there. So when we look at the top and start from either side, you can start here at the back part to see where does that block lie. So that block is the flat surface up to this diagonal piece. So that's up to this diagonal piece. So that's where that line would be. And I know that this whole portion makes up half of the block, which is this line. So half of this block, that's where those lines will run. So that line that you see over there, looking at the top, will just be a straight line that runs through from the back to the front. So now we have these two shapes. In the front we know we have this shape, and so we can say we know these little stairs that we have, or this little gap that we have, is translated through these. So it will be approximately like that. It has a certain depth, but then there's also a solid piece that we find over there. So then that gives us this shape that we see. And at the back we have these two. Again, we'll have to show the center line, so we'll fill in the center line. And now there's one more piece of information that's missing here. We want to also have any hidden detail that we might need. So hidden detail is for a feature that's cut completely through, but that we can't necessarily see the information when we're looking at the view. So what we want to do is, if we look at the circle, we know the circle is cut right through. And here you can decide either to make the hidden detail on this view or on the top view, but we will only show it on one of the views because we don't show hidden detail on more than one view. So if I say I'm going to show the hidden detail here, it would mean that in this part where the circle is, I will draw my hidden lines, and that indicates that circle is running straight through the block. Another set of hidden information that we need is, we know that there's this gap in this bottom surface. And from this angle, if we had to look at the right, so looking from the right, we can't actually see that gap. So we show the hidden information of this line to show that there is a gap. So again, we can translate this information over across through the 45-degree angle line. That means that our hidden lines will be there.